recording. Okay, so we don't have, so the participants are starting to come in virtually, so we'll wait just a minute or so before we get started. We have a couple of them now. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. My name is Vanessa Baca. I am the manager of the City of Albuquerque Office of Neighborhood Coordination. I want to welcome all of our attendees to our latest Lunch and Learn virtual webinar. Today, we are going to be talking about the Crime Stoppers program with we have staff from the Crime Stoppers program. We have crime prevention staff from the Albuquerque Police Department, and we have 2 neighborhood association members who work specifically with block captains and neighborhood safety. I'm going to go ahead and introduce them now. I will start with Rudy.
Thanks, Vanessa, and thank you everybody for joining us today. I'm Rudy Garcia. I am a board member with the Union Castle Neighborhood Association, and I oversee the Neighborhood Watch program, and I'm the captain for the Safety Patrol program. And I'm not sure, I think we may be the only one in the city who has an actual active Safety Patrol program in place. Thank you.
Thank you for being part of this, Rudy. Mara, go ahead.
Yes, I'm Mara Hoffman, and I'm with the Parkland Hills Neighborhood Association board member and a block captain here on Truman, which is just, what do we say, south of Whittier Elementary.
Great. Well, thank you for taking the time to be with us today. Laura, go ahead.
Hello, everyone. My name is Laura Keene, and I work with APD's Crime Prevention Unit. I facilitate programs citywide, including Neighborhood Watch and others.
Great. Thank you, Laura, for being here. Samantha, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Samantha Martinez. I'm the Foothills Crime Prevention Specialist. I also coordinate all neighborhood watches in the Foothills Area Command, as well as any other community meetings that are asked of me.
Great. Thanks for being part of this. I really appreciate it. And last but not least, we have Sonia. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Sonia.
Hi, I'm Sonia Marcus. I'm the Crime Stoppers liaison with the Albuquerque Police Department. So I coordinate all everything for Crime Stoppers with law enforcement, and I report back to the Crime Stoppers board.
Great. I'm really grateful you're able to be part of this today. I think Crime Stoppers is a really great program, but it's one that I personally realized I did not know a whole lot about. And I started thinking if I didn't know about it, or at least understand how it worked, there are probably quite a few people in our community who might not as well. And since I know neighborhood safety and crime is such an issue citywide, I thought this would be a really good topic for today's Lunch and Learn. So I will go ahead and jump into our questions. Sonia, I'm going to go ahead and start with you. Could you give us a brief overview of how the Crime Stoppers program actually works?
Yeah, so Crime Stoppers is actually a nonprofit organization. The board is made up of volunteers from our community. So we have board members from law enforcement, banking, just a variety of volunteers that make up the board. I believe there's about 17 to 18 board members currently. Basically, the way the program works is we solicit for anonymous tips from the public. So if we have a homicide that was committed, we may push out some information at the request of law enforcement to try to get information from the public if they know anything. What's great about it is, like I said, everything that we receive is completely anonymous. We don't take any personal identification information on our tipsters. So if they call our hotline, if they use our app, anything like that, everything is, completely anonymous.
Mm-hmm.
What we do is once we take those tips, we then forward them off to law enforcement. They will filter through them, take whatever information they need. Then they report back to me with a disposition saying, yes, this tip was good. It helped make an arrest on this case. It helped identify suspects, offenders, stuff like that. What I do on a monthly basis is I will go back to the board of directors. We meet monthly and report to them those payouts, the recommendation for the payouts, and then the board will vote on that. So the payouts vary. It just depends on, the type of crime that we're dealing with, if there's any additional charges, if there was any firearms, drugs, anything like that taken off the person when they were arrested.
Okay.
So like I said, the program's been around since 1976. So it started here in Albuquerque. So this was the first Crime Stoppers program, and it was actually started here at the Albuquerque Police Department by Detective McAleese. So it's grown to a worldwide program right now. There's, I don't even know how many programs we have, but we have tons all over So it's just a great tool that I think our community should be using more. And there's just different ways that the community can use it to report to law enforcement.
That's really impressive. I had no idea that it had been around, first of all, that long, and secondly, that it started here in New Mexico. So that's exciting. Like wow, we're at the top of a good list.
Yeah.
Very, very exciting. I always get really excited when I hear that stuff. So thank you for that overview, Sonia. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
The next question is going to be aimed to our neighborhood block captains and our safety patrol. Have you, in your capacity as a block captain or working in a safety patrol, have had the opportunity to use Crime Stoppers? And if so, how did it work for you? And have you used it more than once? And I'll go ahead and I'll start with Rudy on that one.
Thank you, Vanessa. Just real quickly, I want to say thank you to Robert from Santa Fe Village. I just saw in the chat room that they also have an active patrol program. So
Oh, great.
kudos to Robert in Santa Fe Village. In answer to your question, Vanessa, yes, last summer, about a year ago, I was on bike patrol in our neighborhood, and in the newspaper the day before, we saw a picture of a gentleman that had, I believe was wanted for murder, and Crime Stoppers actually had their number listed in that. And we saw him in the neighborhood. Apparently he was living at one of the, staying at one of the homeless shelters about a half mile from our neighborhood. And I did call Crime Stoppers to give them the tip on what we saw, where we saw him in our neighborhood. Now, whether that was helpful or not, APD did tell me he was arrested about 2 days later.
Okay.
So that was a nice thing to have Crime Stoppers. And Sonia, very often when I train our folks, we do talk to them about Crime Stoppers, because I've been involved with law enforcement for a long time now, about 20 years. And I've always loved Crime Stoppers and what they do. So that's one thing we always try to tell our volunteers. Don't hesitate. Most of the time what they'll do is they'll call me first and confirm who to call. But Crime Stoppers is one of the numbers that we have on our list if they ever see anything that has been put out, to make sure to send that call your way.
That's great. That's great, Rudy. That's really good. That's a really good actually idea for a lot of other neighborhoods to possibly implement, whether or not they have a safety patrol. It's just another tool that they can use. Mara, what about you? Have you, in your capacity as a block captain, had opportunities to use Crime Stoppers, and how has it worked for you?
I haven't had the opportunity as yet, but I'm so glad to look at it in more depth to be reassured that that's available. Quite often I will just call the substation and let them know if something or somebody needs some help. So I'm looking forward to the future, having that in my back pocket, so to speak. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. That's really good, Mara. What's one example of something that you do specific to neighborhood safety in your neighborhood as a block captain?
Well, as a block captain, I in particular, really through the years before COVID, we used to have block parties, and we used to get together with people in my home, and they'd come visit, and Laura's been there, and some of the police people from the substation would join in. And then I was looking in my record last night and realized that I think that started, like, for me in 2017. So there is some experience, but I haven't, like I said, had to reach out to anything such as Crime Stoppers. I have contacted the station and helped other people know that they can contact the station people if they have concerns.
Yeah, I think sometimes people forget that, calling the substation or making contact with their crime prevention specialists in each area command is another tool that they can utilize to help with neighborhood safety. So that's a really good reminder. Thank you for that, Mara. That's a good segue to my next question. This is for the crime prevention staff. How would you go about encouraging your block captains and neighborhood safety patrols to utilize Crime Stoppers to address possible issues in their neighborhoods? Laura, I'll go ahead and start with you.
Similar to what Rudy said, educating block captains, talking about it at the initial organizing meeting as an option. Oftentimes, folks are hesitant to call police because they want to remain anonymous, but they're not sure that that will actually happen. So this is one option that we can assure them absolutely that you will remain anonymous. And so hopefully gets us additional information that we need to investigate some of the crimes that are happening in our neighborhoods and in our communities.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good reminder for people. Samantha, what about in your area?
So just as Laura said, I typically bring it up in the original meeting. So anytime somebody creates a neighborhood watch, we would go in and kind of talk about the types of resources that are available to them from the police department. And at that time, we would give the resource of Crime Stoppers if ever they needed, and reassure them that when calling 242 cops or Crime Stoppers, they can remain anonymous.
Mm-hmm. Would you say that the concern about anonymity is the biggest biggest obstacle for people utilizing Crime Stoppers?
Mm-hmm.
This is for Sonia or anybody who wants to answer it, really.
Yeah, I believe so. A lot of people may not want to call, 242 cops, 911 because they don't want to get involved. They don't want police showing up at their house, calling them to interview them and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
with Crime Stoppers, as I mentioned before, there's several ways that they can report. They can call our hotline, which is 24/7, 843-STOP. They'll get a live person. They'll take their information. They can download our P3 Tips app and use that. Or they can go to our website, crimestoppersnm.com. All those places that they report are completely anonymous. We don't track IP addresses. We don't have caller ID on any of our lines. So even when we receive the tips, if people put personal identification information, we sanitize those tips and take anything that could identify the tipsters. Now we do have a way to reach back out to them via the tip online. And ask them if they're willing to speak to police, if they have any additional information like that. Some people are, some people aren't, but it's just another way that we can communicate back and forth if detectives need more information.
Sure. Would you mind typing the website and the app into the chat so that our attendees have that information?
Will do.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Vanessa, can I just jump in real quick?
Absolutely,
with
Rudy.
Piggyback on what Laura and Samantha and Sonia said. The psychology of why people don't call 242 cops, 911 or Crime Stoppers is interesting. And we've had our patrol now for 12 years. And I find that neighbors, it's a couple things. Some neighbors are afraid to make a call for fear of retribution. Some neighbors don't know who to call.
Yeah.
They don't know if it's 242 cops, 911, Crime Stoppers. And I think what it just comes down to is developing a trust level with your neighborhood to educate them on, here's when you call 242 cops, here's 911, here's when you call 311, or here's when you would call Crime Stoppers. But creating a sense of, hey, you're not going to be, nothing's going to happen to you if you make this call. I get a lot of calls sometimes from people, hey, Rudy, I just saw a strange guy in my backyard. And I'll say, okay, so did you call APD? No, I'm calling you first. And I smile sometimes because I think, hey, thank you for having trust in me, but I'm not APD. Why don't you call 911? Because it sounds like it's an emergency and a crime's in progress, or why don't you call 242 cops? So I think for a lot of neighborhood associations, some of it can be a little bit of neighbors just not knowing who to call and when to call.
Yeah, and like you, if you are a very visible person doing like a safety patrol, or like Mara, who's a block captain, like you said, oftentimes people don't know who to call or what to do in those cases. So they have you as that immediate connection to it.
Right.
So, I mean, that's a good thing in one way, but yeah, at the same time, if there's something life-threatening going on, it's much better to call 911 than the block captain. So that's a really good reminder. Thank you for that, Rudy. I appreciate that.
Sure.
I have another question kind of geared toward the crime prevention staff. With issues related to safer neighborhoods, as we all know, like I said, crime is an issue across the city. What are some just general good ideas or tips for people to create safer neighborhoods? Laura and Samantha, but anybody can join in really, or if you have any other thoughts or ideas.
One of the things that we do in crime prevention is we do home security surveys for people, where we come out, take a look at the home, and make recommendations on target hardening and improving the physical security of the home. And in Parkland Hills specifically, where Mara is a block captain, we've done a couple of walk the block or streetscape kind of CPTEDs, crime prevention through environmental design surveys, where we walk with several people, either block captains or neighborhood association members, and take a look at what a street looks like. And we try to get all the neighbors along that street involved in improving visibility to their homes, for instance. So those are a couple of things that we offer. And for business owners out there, we offer it for businesses, houses of worship, any type of physical property we can do a survey on.
Okay. Samantha, what about you? What recommendations just in overall for safety, neighborhood safety, would you want to give?
So the biggest thing for neighborhoods in my eyes is getting eyes on the street. So that's something that a lot of neighborhoods have lost throughout generations. It used to be, you knew your neighbors, you knew exactly who was around and such things like that. You knew, somebody was moving out or somebody was moving in, and then you got to know your neighbors that moved in or that have been around for a long time. And so that for my neighborhood block captains and neighborhood watch meetings, that's one thing I always try to emphasize is that getting to know your surroundings as much as possible, meaning getting to know your neighbors, getting to know, if they have children or company often,
Sure.
getting to know what cars are supposed to be in the neighborhood and which cars do not look like they should be in the neighborhood. So that way, when there is something that doesn't look normal inside that particular block, they're able to identify it and call police when needed.
Okay, it's a good idea. It's a good reminder for people. I have a question that somebody just emailed me. It's for Sonia, specific to Crime Stoppers. How exactly is Crime Stoppers funded?
So the program is funded through donations and fundraising. So Crime Stoppers, we hold a hero luncheon annually. And that is probably one of the biggest fundraisers that we have, where we honor first responders or somebody out in the community. We do a lot of fundraising. We do phone banks, different stuff like that. People can go to our website and they can donate that way. We have businesses that donate. As I mentioned earlier, it is a 501c3, so it is a tax write-off. So, if people are out looking to donate to nonprofits, go to our website, they can donate there. If they need some more information, I'd be happy to give that to that.
Yeah, so it is strictly funded fully by donations. It doesn't get any funding from any other source?
Occasionally we'll get grants. Like we recently worked with the Department of Health to do grants to try to help, rural areas, to extend our resources that way. So that's the only grant that I'm aware of that Crime Stoppers has had. We don't have a grant writer, so it's a lot of work to do. Yeah. But we have done, received grant money as well.
Okay, that's good to know. And I know what you're talking about when it comes to grants. I used to write them, and it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Vanessa,
Mara, oh, sure. And then Mara had her.
Sure.
Mara, go ahead, and then I'll go to Rudy. Go ahead, Mara.
I did have a comment and a question, and maybe Laura can help me with this and the rest of the panel. The fact that I have some new move-ins and I've been knocking on their door and they're not answering. And I think COVID has really put a layer over on us as far as connecting with the people, and the fact that we can't be having our neighborhood association meetings, our annual meetings, where Laura and many of the police would come and visit with us and introduce themselves. So COVID has really kind of made it a lot more difficult in many instances.
Yeah, it certainly has.
More valuable almost.
Yeah, no, that's no, and I understand, and that's been something that my office has gotten a lot of calls and emails about, just the challenges in not even just having an annual meeting, but going out to recruit, to get new members, or like in your case, Mara, as a block captain, wanting to make that connection with your neighbors to try and increase neighborhood safety. It's a huge issue. I feel your pain. I really do. Yeah.
Quite a few of them are older women with their daughters living in the same house. It's interesting. I think I have 3 households like that now on the street.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate what you're doing to try and get them engaged. Thank you for doing that. So, Rudy, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, no, I was just going to add a little bit more how we could make our neighborhood safe. And all I wanted to add to that is that it's all about relationships. And kudos to Laura and Samantha, the APD crime prevention specialist. Ours is Laura Trujillo, and she is awesome. We love her dearly.
She's actually attending as an
Yeah,
attendee. So,
right,
hi, Laura
right.
Trujillo.
But I think and Samantha said it best, I've lived in many neighborhoods throughout Albuquerque, and some are good at interacting with each other, and others, basically, you put four walls around your house, and that's it. You don't interact. One of the things we tried to do here at Union Castle, and we're a smaller neighborhood, is really focus on building the relationships with the APD beat officers, Laura, Commander, the Valley Commander, and not just APD, Albuquerque Fire. We've tried to build relationships with the city in a variety of different ways, from parks and recreation to street and engineering. But the biggest thing we try to do is we actually try to make sure that we build relationships, especially the safety patrol, because we're always walking the neighborhood or riding our bikes, of knowing, like during the pandemic, we would sometimes ask other patrol members, hey, did you check in on your neighbor to make sure he or she's okay? Do they need any groceries? Do they need any support in any way, form, or fashion? And I think what we've tried to do more than anything else is, regardless of who you are, what political affiliation you have, what race, ethnicity, we're all one neighborhood. And I think what we've tried to emphasize the most is that we're here as human beings to support each other and do it as best as we can. As we just had a cop on a corner that Laura helped us organize, and 9 APD officers showed up, and the Valley Commander showed up, and it was really nice having our neighbors interact with APD officers not on a basis where they had to call them because of an emergency, but on the basis of, hey, it's good to meet you. You're a human being. That's great. It is so nice to be able to talk to you and get to know you. And I think more neighborhood associations did. I remember back in the 70s, we used to do potlucks for APD officers, where we would do a potluck at a park, and they would all show up, and we'd sit there and over food, have a wonderful conversation, not necessarily about crime, but just about, hey, life in general. What were you before you were a police officer? So maybe going back to that type of thing. But I think when it comes down to it, it's not just APD's job to keep our neighborhood safe. It's everybody's job to keep our neighborhood safe.
Absolutely. And that's a really good, I'm sorry, go ahead, Mara.
I was just going to tell the one-on-ones that Laura sends out the invite, go meet. And that's wonderful to just be face to face. And
yeah. But another thing that I would, and this is just for all of our neighborhood folks who, whether attending or not, you don't have to just limit inviting police officers to your neighborhood meetings and to your events. Invite other city departments. I know that other city departments would love to be more involved with what's going on with neighborhood associations, and that's something that my office can help and assist with. If you need a direct contact in a department, like DMD, for example, if you want to have more information about roads or how speed bumps are put into neighborhoods, or how parks are, who decides how a park gets built or what improvements are going on, that please consider that as something as, part of your neighborhood meetings. You could even do that, I would imagine, as part of coffee with it, or cop on a corner. And, I can't imagine there's a limit on inviting other city departments, right, Laura or Samantha? Or invite Sonia to talk about Crime Stoppers. I think these are all really great ideas. Thank you, Rudy, for that. So, Mari, did you have another question, or were you going to say anything?
No, I'm just going to add one more thing. The walking bus, that term I've come across in the last so many years. And when I was helping with the Albuquerque Reads over at Whittier, to become better familiar with how these students are getting to Whittier from across San Mateo and up Truman. I would say Truman's really busy because that's one of the pathways for the walking buses. The parents walk their kids, and then eventually I see the parents or the friends walking back to wherever they had come from.
Yeah, something to keep an eye out for. Thank you. This is another question for Sonia. Sonia, what are some ways that you have seen the Crime Stoppers program evolve? Obviously, you haven't been with it since the 70s, but since I wanted to clarify that before anybody thought I was saying that you've been with it for that long. But in your time with APD, and just from your knowledge of the program, how have you seen it evolve up to now?
So when the program started, obviously it was in 76, we didn't have social media, every cell phones the way we do now. So they had to, when they put out crimes to the media to try to solicit for those anonymous tips, they had to reenact a lot of the crimes. So they were, creating videos, which probably took a little bit of time for them to get them out. Now with new times, we have cameras everywhere. People have cell phones everywhere. They're recording everything, sharing everything on social media. Businesses have cameras. So I think that's probably the biggest thing is now we have live footage. We have still photos that are coming in like crazy. One of the things that I like that I worked to get through, for Crime Stoppers was our app that the P3 tips is the database that we use to receive those anonymous tips. The great thing about this now is tipsters can upload photos or videos. So like say you have individuals that are walking their neighborhood and maybe they stumble across some individuals who, look like they're up to no good, or, they're witnessing them break into a vehicle, something like that, and they snap a picture with their cell phone. You can send an anonymous tip to Crime Stoppers and upload that photo with it. The Ring doorbell, you can also upload those videos on there. We get that from some of the communities where they say, we saw some individuals on our Ring doorbell looking into our vehicles, checking handles, stuff like that. And that's information we can share with the area commands and let them know, what time this is taking place, individuals, what areas to kind of do extra patrols, different things like that. So I think the program has definitely grown in that way. There's different ways for people to report to Crime Stoppers, which is great. Not everybody wants to pick up the phone and talk to somebody live. And I just have to reassure people that it's completely anonymous. We're not recording anything. One thing that I would like to stress though is Crime Stoppers is not for emergencies. So we would strongly encourage people not to report stuff on Crime Stoppers if it's an emergency, if it's like taking place now, that if it needs immediate assistance, call 911, 242 cops. But Crime Stoppers, it's monitored 24/7 by our call center, but if it's life or death, don't report it to Crime Stoppers, call 911.
Okay. It's probably not a bad idea to remind people again, what is the difference? Like what's an example of something that would warrant a 911 versus 242 cops versus Crime Stoppers? Laura, can you give just a couple of quick examples of that? Because that's something
Sure.
that I know you get questions about it all the time. I know I get questions about it. So it's worth reminding people what would constitute 911, what would constitute 242 cops, and what would constitute a Crime Stoppers call.
Sure. So 911 again is for emergencies. So anytime someone's life, safety, or property is immediately in danger, that's a 911 call. So someone actively breaking into a home, someone that's in a car accident and injured, those would be 911 calls. 242 cops is when you need a police response, but it's not emergent. So something like the example earlier that Sonia gave of suspicious activity in the neighborhood. You could call that into 242 cops, or you could report that to Crime Stoppers. So with the holidays upon us, we're going to be seeing the porch pirates coming back into business. So, that would be, if you're actively observing someone stealing, you could call that in to 911 as an active crime. But you could also submit that to Crime Stoppers. So, it really is in the moment. And what I like to remind people is situations can change. Say you see two people arguing in the street in front of your home or in front of a business. It's just verbal at that point. You call that into 242 cops, and then someone puts their hands on the other person, they punch them, let's say. Get back on the phone and call 911 because someone's now injured and there's an active fight in progress. So it can change, it can be fluid. Where Crime Stoppers is also very good is in the case of a home with suspicious activity where someone may believe there's narcotics activity going on or drug dealing going on.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times people don't want to report that directly to the police because, as Samantha said, they may not want police coming to their home to take that report. That's a great tip for Crime Stoppers. And Sonia can get that directly to the detectives that work those cases.
That's awesome, Laura. Thank you so much for that reminder. I think it's always a good idea to remind people of the, what constitutes a 911 call versus 242 cops versus Crime Stoppers. Sometimes I forget the differences, so I'm grateful you reminded everybody. Samantha, do you have anything to add to what Laura had said?
No, other than just a side note, Laura mentioned the car accidents needing to be called to 911. I just want to emphasize that those are for those accidents that have people who are injured and that are on roadways. If you are in a parking lot or you are not injured, both cars are drivable and not stuck in a roadway at any point, that constitutes everybody to come into a substation to have that report written. There are certain things that can be done at police substations as well. So there may be some times when you are on hold for 242 cops. If it's like a car accident report that needs to be made, that can be made here. If you don't have any substation, or I'm sorry, any suspect information, sorry, I got tongue twisted. If you don't have any suspect information, you're more than welcome to come to any police substation to make that report, and somebody in the substation can help you. So with that, just ensure, like, if it's a fraud or anything on a bank account, that you don't have the information. So if somebody stole your checkbook and they wrote out a check and you have the name of that person, that does constitute a police officer to take that report. But currently, I think, and Laura, correct me if I'm wrong, but the telephone reporting unit, when you call 242 cops, is going to be able to take some reports with some suspect information, right?
Yes, that's a change that is upcoming.
Yes. So it's, I don't believe that it's currently live, but I believe it's going to be live soon. So 242 cops will triage that as well. So kind of when you're in doubt, call 242 cops. But if you are in immediate danger, call 911.
Okay.
And just one more reminder that some people don't know, our 242 cops operators and 911 operators are the same people. So when you're calling 242 cops and you're getting a message to stay on the line, it's because they have to answer the 911 calls first.
Now, Laura, just real quickly, if you're calling 242 cops, put it on hold. If I missed it, I apologize. But you can also use the APD app to report.
Absolutely.
As well, correct? Okay, I just want to make sure people were aware of that.
Yeah, so we have numerous ways to report. There's online reporting, as Rudy said, the APD app. So in your Google Play or App Store, you just search ABQ Police and it will come up with that app. So that does have reporting capability.
Laura, would you or Samantha mind typing in the chat where people can report online, and then if there's a link to that app somewhere on the city website, would you mind typing that in the chat just so have our attendees might have that information?
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect.
And also, Vanessa, on that app that Laura's talking about, the APD app, there actually is a button on there as well for Crime Stoppers, which will take them directly to the tip reporting form.
Oh, great. Excellent. That's wonderful. That's great. See, I'm learning all this stuff too. I didn't know that. So I want to shift back to Rudy and Tamara. In addition to what you've already shared with us, what are some other specific methods you all use in your neighborhoods to create a safer environment? And how could other neighborhoods use similar methods to address possible crime and safety in their neighborhoods? And I'll start with Rudy.
Well, one of the things that I do often is we have about 30 patrol members, and they're spread throughout the neighborhood, and each member probably could easily reach out to about 10, 15 houses. One of the things I do on a regular basis is I give them updated crime stats for our area. Anything that Laura Trujillo or APD, my APD officer, has given me information on, I'll share that with the folks. And being on the board, I also share it at board meetings. But for me, the more communication and the more information I can share with the neighborhood, the better they're going to be at knowing what's going on within the neighborhood. One of the things I've done, Laura had mentioned porch pirates. Actually, with the pandemic, there have been more deliveries in many neighborhoods, from the prime trucks to the postal trucks, UPS, and some of them are now using budget rental trucks or U-Haul trucks. So one thing I did put out is to the neighborhood is that, hey, just so you know, be on the lookout that UPS may be using U-Haul trucks or budget trucks, but they'll still be in uniform if they're delivering packages. The other thing I've also tried to put out to neighbors is that if you have packages being delivered and you're not home, see if you can have a neighbor pick up your package or have it delivered to one of the locker sites, which I think Whole Foods, we've done a lot of that type of communicating. Matter of fact, last year, I think I even said, we noticed that the deliveries in our neighborhood were happening between noon and 7 p.m. And so I put that out. Hey, just be on the lookout. Packages are being delivered between noon and 7 p.m. The other thing we do a lot more is we're also, we call ourselves ambassadors of the neighborhood. So whenever we see somebody move into a house, we'll try and go up and introduce ourselves and tell them who we are. And welcome to the neighborhood. The nice thing our neighborhood association has is it actually has a welcome wagon person. So when somebody does show up to the neighborhood, we used to give them a plant. I don't know what they get now. I don't know if it's a fruit basket, but they used to get a plant. What it comes down to is everything we can do to get to know you and get to know each other. And we're respectful. We don't overstay any welcome. But I think that's what it comes down to. And recognizing the houses in your neighborhood. That's the other thing. Are there homes that have been problematic that we can pay attention to in the past and work with APD or Crime Stoppers on it? Are there homes that have elderly persons that may not be getting out often enough that we need to pay attention to so we can monitor that? So we tend to do, it's more of a holistic neighborhood approach than it is relying on any one entity to try, and I don't want to use the term rescue us or keep us safe, but more as a team effort in keeping the neighborhood safe, if that makes any sense.
It makes total sense. It's kind of along the same lines of what I tell our neighborhood folks is, you are the expert on your neighborhood. I don't live in your neighborhood, so you are going to be the one who knows who should be there, who shouldn't be there, things like that. So yeah, I think that's a very, very good approach, and that's something that people can do no matter where they live, get to know your neighbors and have an idea and have an understanding of, what goes on in your neighborhood. Mara, did you, in addition to what you've already shared with us, what are some other tips that you do in your neighborhood to help keep your neighborhood safe?
I don't know that I have any additional tips at the moment, but I'm learning a great deal from Rudy, and
Good.
I think it.
I know, isn't Rudy the best?
Yeah, and I think it's time that in this area, and I had thought about it a couple months ago, to contact all the other block captains and try to build to the list of block captains. And maybe once we do things like Rudy's talking about, offering baskets and new move-ins, and because I think most neighborhoods know of the new move-ins. So that's a great idea to add to what's already kind of stirring between my ears here.
Good. Before I forget, would all of the panelists, if you all don't mind, would you mind typing in your name and email address, if that's okay, in the, I'm thinking more Mara and Rudy, but would all of you mind sharing your contact information with our attendees in case they have any questions or they maybe want to implement some of Rudy's fabulous ideas?
Yeah, no.
Okay, great, thank you. So Sonia, is there anything else about the Crime Stoppers program that people should know about? You gave us a really excellent overview of it. Is there anything maybe that I missed, or is there something about the program maybe people don't think about that is, aside from the obvious benefits to the community?
Just a couple of things is, I know we're focused here in Albuquerque, but our program does go out to Valencia County, Torrance County, and Sandoval County. So we service all those counties as well. So, sharing the information is probably the best thing to do. Following our social media pages, because we do post a lot of stuff on there. Again, if we're trying to get information for crimes that are being committed out in the community, we definitely need the community to give us their information that they may have. A lot of people may not realize that they witness something and not know what's going on. So if we're pushing out that information to share with the community, on the news or social media, that I post a lot on the Nextdoor app, stuff like that, they may have something or been in the area and been like, well, I'm going to report it anyway. We'll take it. And if it pans out to be nothing, then no big deal, but we have it. So I would just definitely encourage people to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, our website, anything like that. And if you just want more information, then just reach out and we can definitely do that. Rudy and Mara, I'm happy to come out with you guys to any of your meetings that you have to speak on Crime Stoppers as well, share any information you guys, if you guys are sending out like neighborhood letters or anything like that, you can always just include Crime Stoppers phone number and our website to share with people. I think it's just a great way to direct people, and from there we can kind of educate them a little bit more.
And that's something that I can share with our neighborhood associations in the weekly e-news as well. I'll get that information from you, Sonia, and I can include it in some upcoming ones. That way people have that information as well.
Sonia, does Crime Stoppers still have, did you have the dog mascot?
No, McGruff, that's Laura.
Oh, that's Laura. Okay, that's Laura. Okay, Laura, do you still have that?
Yes, yeah,
Oh, okay.
absolutely. We have one in each area command, and don't let Sonia kid you, she borrows it quite a bit. So we're doing pretty good.
I want to borrow McGruff. Why does Sonia why is she the only one that gets to borrow McGruff?
I'm the only one that bugs her for it.
Been offered to
Because she
borrow
does
McGruff, Laura.
fabulous. Yeah.
What was nice
Yeah.
about McGruff is a couple of years ago, we had him come out to one of our events and the kids loved him.
Mhm.
And so did the parents, but it was a great way for kids to come up and talk talk about police and feel comfortable with it. That's why I was asking. I couldn't remember if it was Crime Stoppers or APD, but it's a great public relations.
Mm-hmm.
Laura, maybe McGruff can start going to Cop on a Corner.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a good idea.
yeah,
You're welcome. You're welcome.
yeah.
Thank you, Vanessa. Thank you.
Anytime. So that's all the questions I have. I'm going through the chat to try and address some of the questions that were asked. There is a chat from somebody's asking about calling 242 cops results in long holds or no answers. I think that was addressed somewhat by Laura when you reminded people that 911 and 242 cops operators are the same.
Yes, and we are actively recruiting not only police officers, but also our support positions like our telecommunications operators. So if you know someone who wants a good solid career and is good under pressure and has great customer service skills, please ask them to check out the jobs on the city website, because we do have those telecommunications positions posted perpetually on there.
Okay, yeah, just
And-
a good reminder for everybody. APD is short-staffed, both with police officers and with 911 operators. So please keep that in mind. It's an issue citywide. It's not it's not specific to you. So
And Vanessa, I think real quick too, just to piggyback on Laura. Laura, when I was at the Emergency Operations Center recently, one thing I did notice with 911 is that, and I was talking to several operators, I think people don't realize this and they may get angry that they're not getting their calls answered, but a lot of people will call 911 with non-emergency calls or other calls, which ties up those operators, and they're not able to answer some of the other calls. And I know that's been a push to try and get people to, hey, don't call 911 if you're calling about a lost dog or a animal on the street. But I know a lot of operators were telling me that they get a little bit frustrated because people are calling the 911 lines and tying them up with non-emergency calls.
Yeah, that's a great point, Rudy. We have people calling and asking for the time and the weather, and Burger King got my order wrong, and what time were the Lobos playing. And the other thing I want to remind people of is we have a queue system there. So if you call 911, it rings a couple times and you hang up. That first call is still out there that has to be resolved. And then you call back in, you're not only at the bottom of the list, but we have to figure out why there's no one on that first 911 call that we received. So that takes up a little bit of time. So if you're calling into either 911 or 242 cops, again, please be patient and just stay on the line until someone answers.
Okay, that's a good reminder. I didn't know that about the queue system, Laura. So that's good for people to remember. There was a question that somebody typed in that they had witnessed a mail theft and the vehicle drove away, it looks like, and it apparently did not have a license plate. Does APD go after vehicles without license plates?
If we have a good description of it, then yes, we can look for, put out a bolo on that vehicle. So looking for identifying marks on that vehicle, if it has bumper stickers, if it has some kind of damage, is something that's always good to remember. And the other thing is that people will often steal license plates to put on their vehicle when they're going out to commit a crime. So my tip of the day that you can take home with you is walk outside and look at your license plate and make sure it's the one that belongs to you, because they will take those, especially, and it used to be they would just grab any license plate, but now they're matching up makes and models to make it a little bit more of a lengthy process before it's discovered that it's a stolen plate.
Okay, thanks for that one too, Laura. Folks, write that down. Check your license plate. Make sure it's the one that's yours. So good idea. I'm getting all this information today. I'm like in information overload here, Laura. Thank you. There was a question about streetlights. Streetlights that are city owned are addressed by the city. Streetlights that are owned by P&M are addressed by P&M. If our attendees would like a map of which lights belong to the city and to P&M, email me. I will be more than happy to get that to you. That way you know who to get that to. Streetlights, I think we addressed that. I think I covered all. I think I got all the questions. Looks like I did. Sorry, I'm moderating and looking at the chat at the same time. So if I miss anything, please let me know. I think I covered, yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Just one thing I wanted to mention as well for Crime Stoppers, we also have a campus Crime Stoppers program. So we go into the schools and the kids, we educate them on how to use Crime Stoppers, when to use it. They have the ability to report anonymously to Crime Stoppers as well.
Okay.
So that is available for students. It's the same phone number, it's the same app and everything like that. But we do get that information, whether it be to APD, APS police. But yeah, the kids in the school also have that, and the staff as well.
Okay. Oh, that's excellent. I didn't know that. So really good information. And then there's another thing in the chat. You can use anti-theft screws for your license plate. Remember to keep your screwdriver in a safe place. Otherwise, you cannot remove the license plate.
Right.
It's good to know. Okay, excellent. Good. All of this has been really excellent information. Rudy, I really appreciate the suggestions about deliveries and the information about budget trucks being used by UPS, because I didn't realize that. So this is all really good, especially with the holidays coming up, all of those Amazon deliveries. That's really good information to have. So thank you for that. I think we have addressed all of the attendee questions. Did anybody have anything else they wanted to add in terms of neighborhood safety, Crime Stopper information? Just any general thoughts on? Go ahead, Mara.
There was just one other thing that when we were talking about getting together and introducing ourselves, and maybe Crime Stoppers might want to do it, is the fact that clownery, having somebody deliver messages dressed up as a clown, is really an icebreaker. And just wanted to mention that. I have a clown outfit that I haven't put on.
Oh, Mara.
In the after school program.
I'm seeing some outreach opportunities for you. You and I are gonna have to talk.
Laura and I will get together and we'll bring Crime Stoppers and McGruff out and
There
we
you
can
go.
talk to everybody.
And then you can have a clown. Oh my God, these are wonderful ideas.
Oh dear.
The one thing I do want to just emphasize is, because Laura and Samantha are there, and I know Laura Trujillo's online too, is if more neighborhood associations, the crime prevention specialists do such a great job of doing the free safety assessments for people's homes. That's one thing we really try to put out in our neighborhood is, look, these guys will come out and give you a free safety assessment for your home. I think if more neighborhoods knew about that, more people would call the Lauras of the world and the Samanthas of the world, come out and give them that free assessment. And correct me if I'm wrong, ladies, but it's not an expensive, when you give recommendations, it's not expensive items to do, like cutting back shrubs from windows, having security lights, parking your car a certain way. A lot of neighbors used to tell me it's probably going to cost a lot of money. And I tell them, no, not at all. Wait till they do a security assessment of your home. You're going to see it's really a matter of maybe changing behaviors and lighting around your house and shrubs. So I do want to emphasize that to everybody who's listening. The crime prevention specialists are the best kept secrets of APD. These folks really go out there and do a hell of a good job uniting with neighborhoods, working with neighborhoods, but their crime assessments are a really nice thing that they do. I
could not agree more. Our crime prevention staff are invaluable. I I don't know how you guys do it because I couldn't do your job. Kudos to all of you. Thank you to Laura, to Samantha, to Jose Briones, who's in the Southeast Area Command, to Laura Trujillo in the Valley Area Command, Pete Gelibert in the Northwest Area Command, and there's nobody in the Northeast right now, but hopefully that will change since our Francesca left us. But no, thank you for all the work that you guys do for us. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And just to add to that, when we go out to do an assessment of your home, there are recommendations. We're not going to hold you accountable if you cannot make the changes immediately. We're not going to hold you accountable if you aren't able to change something or you don't want to change something. It's purely recommendations to keep you safe. It's not something that's concrete and that you need to run out and go conquer the world and buy like all the things to fix everything and all of that. It's more so just recommendations, so that way you know, here are my shortcomings of my house, and here's what I can do better. And then in time, you can replace the locks that need to be replaced, or have somebody go out and look at your shrubbery and see how you can cut it back or what landscaping you can put in to make yourself safe. It's never going to be concrete unless it's done by other city entities like our ADAPT program.
Yeah, good to know.
If you have a minute, I wanted to mention that Parkland Hills and Southeast Heights are creating a village within the two neighborhood associations. And part of it, Samantha, is that we're going to have volunteers, but possibly, you know, if we get stuck, that might be a way to connect with the city and the county for support in those regards of safe homes. And we've already have the list of how the home can look safe and the shrubs. And yeah, so I'm so glad you just look at what you did, because that kind of dovetails with where we are with some volunteers in this village that's just about, after COVID, going to be more active. Yeah.
It's a great idea, Mara. Thank you for
Yeah.
that. Okay, well, I don't have anything else to add unless anyone else does. No more, I don't see any other questions from our attendees. I want to thank all of you for taking the time to come today. Sonia, thank you so much for talking about Crime Stoppers. It was very, very educational, very useful, lots of really good information that I didn't realize was part of it. Laura and Samantha, as always, you guys rock. Thank you. You guys are the best. And Mara and Rudy, you guys have been wonderful. Thank you so much, all of you, for taking the time and sharing your expertise. It's the work of all of you that makes things so much better for our city. And I personally really appreciate everything that you do, all of you. Thank you.
And thank you for doing
Thank you, Vanessa.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Everyone,
you,
stay
everybody.
tuned for next month's Lunch and Learn. We'll be having it the week before Thanksgiving. I'll be sending out the information on that probably in the next couple of weeks. And don't worry, none of you will have to be part of that. You get a pass for Thanksgiving. So, well, thank you all. We're at the end of the webinar. I want to again thank you all for taking the time, and you all have a wonderful rest of your afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vanessa. You too.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye. Take care.
You too.